I've had a bit of a rocky start to my marriage, but we're working through it. I didn't get married until I'd made a name for myself in my career. My wife Lilith was born a month after me earlier this year, and we celebrated our 50th anniversary. We didn't have anything to protect when we got married, so there are no prenuptial agreements. Lilith and I have lived in this house for 21 years. We moved here a year after we got married, and then brought our firstborn son here 2 months after we got settled. Our second child joined us 2 years later. The kids are now in college. Recently, I convinced Lilith that we should move to a gated community for 50 or more couples. Once we were fully committed to selling our house, we went into contract and invested several $1,000s in the upkeep of the new home. As you can imagine, we've got a lot of stuff packed up in boxes. However, I'm not planning on moving into the new house. In fact, none of us are moving. I just got off the phone with the realtor who withdrew our offer. We lost a couple thousand, but it was worth it. We really need to move, as we attended the closing of the contract 3 days ago. We have a week until tomorrow to hand over the keys. Lilith thinks I left yesterday morning on a business trip. I haven't worked since I quit my job a week ago. I bought a one-way ticket to Atlanta. I'm catching a flight from Atlanta to the Bay Area, then getting on a ship. I should be at my retreat on the island in a couple of days. I don't plan on divorcing Lilith, but I do plan to take all the proceeds from the sale of our house, my 401k payout, and most of our savings. My new identity has given me the chance to live my life sailing the Caribbean. I've had to spend more than I would like to admit on offshore accounts, thanks to electronic banking and the amount of money laundering. All that money is now in my new identity's cryptocurrency accounts. As there are over 10, I've got 10,000 cryptocurrencies. So I really hope the one I've chosen survives. I'm planning to convert this imaginary money back into something more stable as soon as possible. You never know when things might disappear, like Lilith's wedding vows. Around 3, I gave Lilith a call this afternoon. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding annoyed. "Hey babe, how was your trip?" "Good, still the same, but in a different city. What are you doing?" "Just packing some more stuff." "Okay, line number 1. She's 30 minutes away at Arnold Paris's house. He's Lilith's current partner. I'm not sure if he's her first partner. I don't care. One is one too many. I'd like to put a bullet in their heads, but I'll just leave Lilith alone. Arnold's wife will probably clean his clock." "Clock? Do you check the boxes that hold your stuff?" "Yes, dear. Mine are clearly labeled Lilith. Yours are labeled Howard. It would be very easy to put your things in your closet and mine in mine. Would you please look in my desk for my day planner? It should be in the top right-hand drawer in a minute." "I don't see it." "Are you sure about where it is?" Line number 2. She would have to be in my house, where my brother is now, to at least check. I really cared about that my brother would have enough time to vacate the house. I sold it since it doesn't look like she's going back anytime soon. I'm sure my plans shouldn't change. No problem. You said you were having lunch with friends today. Where did you go? Do I know any of them? We went to a diner near my office. Just some ladies I work with. What are you going to do for dinner? Lee. Number 3. My investigator says she arrived at Arnold's this morning at 9 a.m. and hasn't left yet. I'll probably just order a steak to the room. The company's paying for it. What else are you doing today besides getting your ass handed to you, cheater? Just I've got to do another load of laundry and pack up the leftovers. I hear the dryer's on. I'll have to go and call you later. I love you. I'll be in touch. I guess once you start lying it gets easier. There was nothing about that woman I could trust. 2 rental trucks were parked outside my old house and 4 guys were loading stuff as fast as they could. The truck with my stuff was headed to the storage unit my brother had rented that morning. The other truck was making its 4th trip to the consignment store. Both trucks had to be back at the rental place by 5. It's 0. Morning. By the time I ended the call with Lilith, my old house was probably empty. I waited for confirmation from my brother. He definitely earned the 5. I'd paid him the overnight package addressed to my lawyer was ready to go. I signed all the legal documents and was sending them, along with the house keys and the garage door opener. Lilith will also have to turn in her keys and open her garage door. My attorney would be contacting her soon. I didn't call Lilith again when I tried to talk to Arnold's wife and tell her about the investigator's report. She hung up on me. She'll receive the report along with the photos and video, as it will be delivered by... I also sent 16 packages to Lilith's parents, friends, employer, and siblings. Our kids got the same package. I included notes for the kids, letting them know I was disappointed in them disappearing and wasn't sure if I'd ever get back in touch. The package I felt best mailed to Lilith allowed me to spill out other than stirring in the pot. I'm not sure what I expected to accomplish, but it felt good. I've realized that your depraved actions have resulted in the loss of your marriage. I've taken all the money that I could get my hands on, and I also took what I wanted from the house. The rest of our belongings were taken to a consignment store to be sold. My attorney has the details. You can claim the proceeds, but don't bother looking for your jewelry. That gold gave me a decent amount of money. Your aunt's rings brought in the most, and my engagement ring didn't bring in much. But that's life. That diamond earring you got from Arnold wasn't really worth much, just like your wedding vows. The house is vacant now, and I withdrew our offer on the new house. It was just a ploy to get all the proceeds for our house. Thanks for playing along. I'm not planning on divorcing you. You can spend your money on it if and when you save up. I plan on replacing you as soon as possible, but that's none of your business. I've made it clear to the kids that I'm disappearing, since both were aware of your affair and kept silent. I told them I was disowning them. I let them know there really isn't much of a market for old white girls, so good luck with whatever career you pursue. If your parents hadn't put all their money into that retirement village, they might have been able to help you out. Maybe you and Arnold can sleep in the same car. Maybe not. I don't know much about him. He's not very social, but that's what you traded your lukewarm lifestyle for. I hope all that juice you swallowed didn't give you too much heartburn. I left. You, your father's gun, and a box of ammo. Too bad you were too busy to join me for shooting lessons. Well, point and pull the trigger. You got it if you intend to commit murder. You might as well commit suicide. Do it first if Arnold had kept his mouth shut. I may never have known about you two bragging to the bartender about taking a cherry from some old woman named Lilith. That really ruined you. What were the odds he'd walk into my brother Steve's bar? Steve said he was immediately wary as there aren't many women with a name like Lilith. I suppose that's karma for me, especially when Arnold shared those selfies of him holding your breasts behind your back after he paid with his credit card. Steve asked to see his driver's license after that, and it was pretty easy to get all the proof I needed. I really hope you weren't planning on forcing everything on me and running off with Arnold as your pimp. Thanks for some nice memories, but mostly all other memories are tainted. Instead of leaving my phone, I tossed it too. I also wrote down the contact info of the homeless guy I saw huddled in the dumpster behind the hotel. I had a good night's sleep. I had been drinking in the hotel room, and I had a few small bottles of booze on my credit card. I didn't care. I had no intention of being around to pay any bills. I had my doubts that any bills would be paid for the past 22 years. Lilith has been a homemaker. She worked until she became pregnant shortly after we were married. I had a reasonably well-paying job, so she didn't have to work. And she had a lot of free time after the kids graduated from high school. That was her downfall. My investigator couldn't find out much about how Lilith and Arnold met, or how long it lasted. What he did find out was that my kids were dating them for some reason. Lilith stopped by the college campus and they were invited to dinner. The investigator said he followed them and took video with sound. I was able to identify my children. Arnold was introduced as her lover. Whatever Lilith promised them turned out to be their downfall. They had plenty of time to call and talk to me, but they never did. After taking breakfast to my room, I caught a cab and drove to the used car lot. I just left the hotel car lot. I'll let Lilith figure out why I didn't check out. I wasn't free until Monday, in the old car headed for the coast. By Saturday evening, I was on the beach. I'd withdrawn local currency from my new identity account. My first purchase was dinner and drinks. During the meal, I was approached by a very friendly, scantily clad woman who convinced me to spend more of my money on her than I would have on the woman I had been working with for over 20 years. She was very energetic, and we had a few hours between sessions. I spent my money on a night of bliss. The exchange rates meant I could do it every day of the week if I wanted to. At that point, it was what I wanted to do. I planned to create new email accounts and bought a laptop and a cell phone. It would be hard to link the new me to my old me. I set up a VIP phone number and got an update from Steve. He said Lilith called and Lilith hung up on him when he teased her about making love. At least Howard left me a gun. I'm in a bad way, and I lie awake at night wondering if I should just end it all. There was a time when I was drunk on attention. I never realized it was just a game Arnold was playing to turn me into his plaything. Someone told me a year ago that I was going to have an affair. I would have laughed in their face. There was no way it should or could happen. I guess I was easy to get. I met Arnold at the gym, He was working out at the same time I was. How did I ever fall for all those? Well, I guess I was just looking for something more than Howard could give me. I wanted someone to tell me I was sweet and desirable. He was patient, and his compliments turned into drinks and conversation in the parking lot. I made the mistake of stopping at a fast food diner for a snack. Why would a married woman date a married man in private? It took months to lead me to what we did afterwards. I started thinking about Arnold when I was making love to Howard. I decided it would be easier to give in to the desire to make Arnold feel good. I had already mentally done it, so it was a short leap. My ego was making fun of how well I'd done it and how my breasts were turning him on, which fueled my infatuation. After that, we started meeting at his summer home once a week. It was pretty easy to be a little late getting home from running errands when Howard went out of town. When he was away for a few days, I was Arnold's plaything. At some point, he led me to, I thought that if I left Howard and took my share of the marriage, he would do the same with his wife. That way, we could continue our love adventures as a couple. I don't know what made me tell my children about it, but I did. I think Arnold brought me to this decision to reinforce my desire to give up my marriage. When Howard left on that trip to Atlanta, I hadn't yet decided what I was going to do. I thought I had deftly handled Howard's call. Just as I was getting ready to leave that morning, I read a message. My sister got a package from Howard. It was about my novel. Arnold said, "Oh, you can start the divorce right now." But I didn't. I kept quiet because I hadn't decided if I really wanted a divorce. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. What did I do then? A car pulled up. A man gave Arnold the divorce papers. "She's going to leave me with nothing. Take care of your own downfall. I'm out of here." With those words, Arnold left. He barely. I got home and found the house empty. I threw up in the bathroom too as I leaned over the toilet. Someone rang the doorbell and there was an overnight bag by the door. I thought the worst. Howard's letter crushed me. I called my children and told them about the nightmare my life had become. They got the packages too. They had video proof of what a cheater I had become to Arnold. They were shocked to realize that Howard wanted nothing more to do with them. I think they were hoping for I saw an opportunity to explain my reasons to him. I realized my guilt after buying some fast food. I went to the consignment store. My credit cards were still working, which surprised me. Some of my stuff was already sold out. The guy there said that if I wanted my stuff, I'd have to pay a cancellation fee. It was cheaper to repurchase only what I wanted. That fast food was no longer digestible. When I called Howard's cell phone, some drunk answered. The kids weren't any luckier. I didn't think Steve would help. He said he'd help me, but I had to try. When I started asking questions, he laughed. "Lilith, I'll pay you $50 a night to be a topless waitress. You'll need one of those bras that lift up those baggy things you call breasts. What do you say?" To that, you could say I gave it a shot. I hung up on you. It was the longest weekend of my life. I slept on the floor and then tried to figure out what else I should buy at the thrift store. The only pair of shoes I had were the ones I wore. When I got home that day, my makeup was gone. I went to a discount store and bought bathroom essentials. I tried to talk to my friends and family, but Howard sent them a video. Nobody wanted anything to do with me. The call from Howard's attorney was disturbing. The locks would be changed on Friday whether I was there or not. Apparently, I could be charged with trespassing if the homebuyers wanted me to. On Thursday night, I loaded my worldly belongings into the car and spent the night at a cheap motel. My kid acted like I was a cheater, pulling tricks. I ended up homeless. We had bank and brokerage accounts, but after reading Howard's note, I didn't expect to find any money. It took a long time at each institution to convince them that I was entitled to have access to the accounts. I couldn't rent an inexpensive apartment with what Howard had left me. Luckily, he hadn't canceled our credit cards. If I kept an eye on my spending, I could live on those credit cards for a year or until they were revoked. My calls trying to find a divorce attorney only added to my pain. I didn't have enough money to hire an attorney. None of them were willing to take the case on an unsecured basis. When Arnold called and told me he had no, I laughed at him. He suggested we get together for a bit of lovemaking. I told him where I was staying and left the door ajar. I got in and waited in my car. I left Arnold a note asking him to strip naked. A few minutes later, he entered the room. I returned and opened the door to see a naked Arnold staring at me. I remember Howard texted me. I took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. The bullet hit him almost perfectly between the eyes, though I thought I was aiming for his heart. I flushed the note down the toilet and waited for the police. The officer I spoke to looked skeptical when I told him that when I returned, I found a naked man in my room and before I knew who it was, had shot him in self-defense. The police took the gun and took me to the station. I was allowed to leave, but 2 days later I was arrested for first-degree murder. I was charged with second-degree murder. I forgot there was a recording of that phone call and they believe I ambushed Arnold. My court-appointed attorney was useless. I didn't think there was much chance of being found innocent. At least my money and housing problems were put on hold when I asked where my dinner was when the guard told me that I had to please him, or I would starve to death. After I complied with his instructions, I received my dinner plate. I wanted to die. Steve, it's Howard. What's new? You better sit down. Howard. Lilith shot Arnold and then tried to kill herself. She's in a state mental hospital. It was pretty wild hearing Steve talk about Lilith's experience. I'll catch up with you later, Steve. My head is spinning. My attorney said he'll look into G, so I'll have to wait for his analysis. Is there anything to worry about if I go home? How do I get my money back into the country? He told me to sit tight for a few days and he'd check out what Steve had told me and let me know what my options were. While walking down the beach, I met another woman for another night of fun. I decided to stay here until I got bored of it. It was worth the money. I don't remember her name, but I might recognize her on the street the next day. The next day, I couldn't find the woman from the day before, so I met another woman who was up for it. I once read that money can't buy happiness. It can buy ice cream, which makes me happy. There seems to be a disconnect here. It's the same with love. Having a loving wife was nice until she wasn't anymore. I think it's only fair to help these single working mothers. It's been almost 9 months since my lawyer told me I could go back. I didn't think it was going to happen. I haven't let a day go by without making love since the very first time. Some days I try some of the available ladies from the evening. I've been getting a lot of attention at lunchtime lately. It's pretty obvious that I'm overpaying, but I didn't factor that into my calculations. No one lost, but I didn't win anything either. I still had heartburn over the kids, so I sent each of them a card with a quarter inside. Next time you're faced with a tough decision, I hope you can find the strength and courage to do the right thing. If not, here's a quarter to toss in to make your choice. That's all I'm leaving you. Lilith is deemed mentally unstable and remains in a state institution. Murder charges are never dropped, so if she ever gets better, it will only get worse.